was like, yeah, whatever, whatever it takes to be TV ready, because this is TV ready. Now, beforehand,
there you go.
This is what I would look like.
Boy.
I want to ask you to get like really started here is, I thought it was kind of interesting that, yes, we know you as Canadian, but you have a different background as well. Can you kind of get into that? Because I know your parents came here in 94 from Romania.
Yeah. From Romania, a small town in the southeast. And I grew up there actually for 3 years of my life, from the age of 6 to 9, I would say. I actually started playing tennis there. My parents loved watching tennis growing up, and I was always an active child, but nothing really stuck with me. I tried gymnastics, I tried swimming, skating back in Canada when I was little, or more little than 6 years old. And yeah, one day my dad's like, why don't you try tennis? I mean, you don't like anything else. And then I tried tennis, and I loved it ever since. I think it was kind of like meant to be, as cheesy as that sounds. But yeah, I started playing tennis there. I grew up, I had my 3 years of my life there, and I speak the language, which is awesome because I only speak English and Romanian and a little bit of French, but please don't test me on that.
No, listen, I know
yeah,
like maybe 3 things in French. 3 things in French, that's all I'm good for.
Yeah, me too.
It's just like it's like
It's
hello and hello, how are you, and can I use the bathroom? That's probably it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because like obviously you said you were interested in different sports as well, like you've tried them, but like what made you gravitate to tennis? Because if I tell you what sport I gravitated to, it was bowling. No one comes out to watch someone bowl. Like if you're good at tennis, people are like,
really?
Yeah. Unless you're like on like ESPN's like, bowling channel, where you're the guy who's like, who do you think you are? I am. Other than that, if you're not that good, they're like, just let him be. So what made you get so energetic about tennis?
Everyone loves something.
Yeah.
Well, for me, first of all, I loved individual sports. Like I loved swimming, I loved skating, and gymnastics as well. I kind of gravitated more towards like the individual sports. I have no idea why. Maybe because I don't necessarily like people. So I like to be in my own little bubble. And it's also great because if you do anything wrong, it's solely up to you, and it's your doing. So I don't have to like worry about anyone else, if you know what I mean. And just, I don't know, the feeling of hitting a forehand winner, the feeling of hitting a drop shot, the feeling of just being on that court, moving side to side. I grew up playing on clay, so I love the clay. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. There's nothing really in particular. I just really, really loved it.
See, that's fair, because like individual sports, it's all on you. But now, see, I'm the type of guy when I was younger, even as an individual sport, I would like look around and be like, how can I blame this on you? It's like, sir, you struck out on that bowling. Yeah, you struck out that time. That was strike 3 on you. I'd be like, that's Timothy's fault. Timothy, get over here. Be like, why?
You're breathing too loud.
Yeah, you
shut up.
Stop breathing. You're not helping. And the next minute it's like, I'm trying the best I can. I'd be like, thank you. Now I can do things. But I want to ask you, because of course, like obviously with individual sports, there's a lot of pressure and it's all on you, right? Like if you succeed, it's almost like I love the movie Coach Carter, but there's a line in Coach Carter that's like, you told us we win as a team, we lose as a team. If one guy triumphs, we all triumph. So like, I want to ask you, because 2019 was a stellar year for you. Canadian, I think it's a Canadian Open you won. That's like the first time, I think, in like 50 years the Canadians ever won that. US Open, you've won that. So like, this is like your all-time high. So like, what's going through your mind, going up against one of the great, tennis players that we have in Serena Williams, but like, what's going through your mind, challenging her, winning, but now you're a Canadian winning it, the US Open. There's jokes. Late night shows made jokes about the Canadian winning the US Open. But like, tell me through the highest of high, like what's going through your mind as you're winning this?
Oh,
Nothing,
man.
just deadness. Like, no.
Just deadness. No, I
Yeah.
wish. There's
Yeah.
way too many emotions. It was so overwhelming. I remember like after I won that match, I was laying down on that court and all I was thinking about was how all the hardship that I went through was so worth it. Like just for that moment, everything was so worth it. I could not stop crying. But at the same time, like I knew that I was meant to be in that position. For some reason, it's like it was my soul calling in a way. I just felt so at peace with everything. And even before the match, I was so confident. It was crazy. Like I had this coolness to me. I was in my zone from A to Z the whole match. And it's never been like that ever, but just for that final. So
Really?
all of
Okay.
these, like, yeah, all the hard work that I put in, all the meditation, all the visualization, all the manifestations, like all of that brought me to that. So it
I
was
like
great.
your I like your
Definitely
response
great.
there. I like your response because I'm kind of interested because where you're saying like you went into this confident, like even like you're facing, not that I need to tell you, but it's like you're facing Serena Williams, who's accomplished in herself, but you're coming into this like, man, I felt confident. Like I could say that and I'd be like, yeah, I'm confident, but then someone's like, okay, but how confident? And you're like, all right, like honest hour here. I'm a little bit nervous, but I feel like I can take her. But you're just
Yeah,
going in there like
yeah.
I got this, and I'm just like, okay. I still feel like, can you check her cup? Just make sure nothing got poured in her cup, like overconfidence or anything. Like someone didn't slip something in to make it
But I
sound like
was
yeah,
nervous.
yeah. Okay, all right,
Don't get
that's
me
good.
wrong. Like I was, especially the first time I played her, because I played her in the finals of the Canadian Open. She ended up retiring, which sucked for sure. I mean, nobody likes
Yeah,
winning like that. Um, but yeah, before that match, like I was crying to my coach. I was sobbing my eyes out because of all the emotions, and I was still wiping down my tears while I was walking on the court because I couldn't believe it. So it was kind of good that I had that moment before the US Open final.
yeah.
Um, because like I kind of got a taste of how it would be like in a way.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I believe I read in the U.S. Open because I know like to get a little bit personal too. Like you're allowed to have your dog at the U.S. Open, right? So I mean that's beneficial,
Hmm.
right? Like when you win
We
or
kind of sneaked her
yeah,
in.
yeah, you win or you lose. It's almost like all right. It's like your parents are there, like give us a hug. No, where's my dog? I want my dog.
Yeah, give me my damn dog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's such a stellar thing in my life. Like she's incredible. Every time I look at her, I just smile. She makes me forget about everything. She's the cutest.
So like I want to ask you too, because obviously when you reach a high of a high, you're like on top of the world. Like no one can come at you. You're kind of like, this is my peak. Now I know as Canadians we're kind of trained to be more humble, more like almost like, yeah, like we're
Yeah,
okay. We did okay.
you're right.
But like I want to ask you, because
You're
that
right.
comes in handy because sometimes when you don't get like the highs of highs and you go through struggles, people can't really then say, well, like,
Hmm.
oh, she got knocked down a peg. It's like, no, she didn't. She was always humble. So how do you take that? Like when you think you have things in control and they just slip away from you, how do you bounce back? See how I did there? Tennis puns.
Yeah, bounce back. Good job. You did your research.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, it's not always easy. Like, it's so easy to say things, but to actually do them can be so difficult sometimes. Like, I have a lot of bad days. I did have a lot of bad days in 2020 and 2021. Um, let's just say a lot happened, and I
Yeah.
kind of wouldn't say lost my focus. I just lost a lot of love for myself, I would say, because I kept identifying myself too much with the sport. If I won, I was pleased, like I was happy, but if I lost, it was like complete disaster. And I would basically put my or base my worth off of that. And I was losing quite a bit in 2021. So that wasn't easy. And it was just like a downward spiral. And I ended up taking time off. I ended up taking like 6 months off. I told my team that I can't continue like this anymore. Like crying in my bed like every other night. Like I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And so that break just made me realize a bunch of things, made me realize how much I truly love the sport. I kind of rediscovered myself in like other aspects as well. Like I picked up martial arts, I picked up dance again. I used to dance like back when I was like 10, but like I picked that up again and I realized how much I love that, and now I'm kind of like incorporating it in my training, just making it fun, just enjoying it again, cuz in 2019 I was just enjoying it. I was just going with the flow, like
Do you,
nothing
do you
crazy. I want to get back to
yeah,
that.
yeah. Like, do you feel like where you had the success and then where you were kind of like, again, like not winning as much matches, there was pressure because now people are not viewing you as like the number 153 ranked or number 100th ranked. Like they're looking at me like, all right,
Mm,
she's winning. And now all of a sudden, is it like, is this a fluke? What's going on? Like, listen, I'm not pinpointing it as like, all right, let's let barrier. But at the same point, it's like, I've been there. I've been to points where like, not that to the peak of professionalism, but you go and play bowling or you have a great soccer match and someone's like, all right,
yeah.
next week look out for him because he's going to score another 6 goals,
Yeah.
and then you don't score 6 ever again. They're like, what a plug, this guy sucks. And you're just like,
I know.
I have feelings.
I know. People really don't care
Yeah.
about what other people think about, just basically that. Like, I get so many comments on, oh, you're just a fluke, oh, you're a one-hit wonder and whatnot. And I mean, back in the day, I would believe that, but
Yeah.
now I realized a lot. Like, I feel like I'm just more aware of everything around me, even about my sport, about my team, my family, my friends, and just being very present helps me navigate towards that because I have to have social media, to interact with fans. Sometimes it's not always the
The
best
greatest.
thing, but
Yeah.
I know I have to do it. It's a part of the gig. But really staying in the present moment and realizing, my worth and what I did achieve, because what I achieved is something incredible. Sometimes I feel like I would downplay it, but I have to tell myself, like, you did great. And, if you did it once, you can do it again. So that's kind of how I try to like deal with it.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, like with other people that we've had on this podcast, like obviously social media is kind of like a big topic. I want to ask you, like, how do you kind of manage, like, obviously playing the sport and your social media? Because I know that I've read that you're kind of into like creative visualization. Now, you used to spend more time at it. I think you said now it's like 15 minutes, but it's still something. And yoga also helps too in determining of like just kind of meditating, get everything out of your
Yeah.
head. But like, how do you handle that? Because like I feel like there has to be a team behind you that's like, all right, weed out these tweets, weed out this stuff so that that doesn't get into her headspace. Or if you come across something that's negative, like how do you not retaliate, but more or less how do you be like, all right, get that out of my system? Because I get one's comments where it's like,
Yeah.
this podcast is mediocre, this host sucks, and I'm just like, I know I suck, but how can I be better?
That's the mindset. You just gotta be like, how can I be better? Basically, like if you looked at one episode and you're like, oh damn, like I missed a question or I said that question
Yeah.
wrong or something like that. You just got to keep getting better. Everybody makes mistakes, and I try not to look at it as a failure. I try to look at it as a challenge or just adversity, because failure is such a strong negative word and it gets into people's heads a lot. And that's what I'm trying to adapt. Just keep getting better every single day. Like, yeah, I meditate for 15 minutes, but I do other things like outside of that. I like that's the 15 minutes where I close my eyes, and then there's yoga. That's a form of meditation. There's like mindful eating where you don't do anything, you just focus on your eating, or mindful walks, or just things that helps you stay in the present moment. And regarding the whole social media thing, uh man, it's not always easy for sure, but
No.
I try not to take things personally. I think that's the one thing that us human beings are masters of. We love taking things personally. So I try to look at it as, I know who I am, I know what my worth is, I know what I'm capable of. Who the heck are you?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it. And that just helps me stay confident. And sometimes I'll just laugh it off. But most of the time, I try not to look at that. And I like to take social media breaks. That's why I'm not always active on social media, which isn't always a good thing,
Yeah.
but I want to also preserve my mental health, and that's always a good thing for me.
That's fair. I feel like, you know what, when I come across comments, like I said, if someone's like, you suck, this is the worst, blah, blah, I kind of come from a comedy background where I kind of like going like, all right, how do we implement that into the next episode? Where it's like you start off the podcast where like you take the comment where someone's
Oh,
like,
there you go.
yeah, like you suck. You're like, all right, welcome to the podcast where you suck, I suck, everyone sucks. Our guest today sucks. And then they're just like, hold on, why is he taking something that I was supposed to hurt his feelings with and working with it in his show? I'm like, well, keep going. Keep telling me more, and I'm just going to use it.
Humor and laughter is honestly the best medicine. Just not taking things so seriously makes you, first of all, seem more confident and just a happy person. People don't
Yeah.
like that.
People hate that. People see you happy and they're
Yeah.
just like, how do I bring that down? And you're just like, go ahead, give it a try.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit, like, because obviously with athletes, you deal with injuries. I've dealt with an injury where it's like a pinky. I broke my pinky. No, I'm only kidding. And that'd be like horrible. Like go to bowling, be like, I can't bowl today, guys. What happened? My right pinky. They're like, you're left-handed. I'd be like, shut up. But how do
It
you?
still counts.
Yeah, it still counts. I just don't want to play. I didn't want to tell anybody. But how do you like deal with injuries? Because I know like sometimes when you're away from a sport and you can't train because you're injured, obviously that's a setback because then you have to like work your way back to getting to where you were to. So tell me, like with your injuries, how do you work through it? Like what was your mental state there? I'm just more or less interested because every athlete's different. I feel like if this was a Kobe Bryant interview, he'd be like, I just put some ice on it and I went back out and played. I'm like, great,
Yeah,
Kobe. Great.
he's insane.
Yeah.
He's insane. I wish I could have that kind of mentality. It's not always easy, but like for instance, when I first got injured, I was always like super, super scared. But then once I started getting injured more, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna push through it because I'm sick and tired of just like, not playing. And sadly, that's kind of how my career went up until a year and a half ago. I haven't been injured for a year and a half, so I'm very grateful for that.
Knock on wood.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. There
knock
you
on
go.
wood. Thank God I have wood here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but how I dealt with it before was, first of all, I can't be how I was at the beginning, like too scared, and then I also can't be too like too eager to like push through it. So I had to find a balance in between, and I really had to do my best at identifying what kind of pain it is, first of all. But obviously, if it's a injury where like I tore my meniscus 1 year, that you obviously need to take time off, and that time off sucks. First of all, because rehab, like you need patience for that. That really sucks. But I know that I have to do that, so obviously I have to push myself through it. But I feel for me, it's more the mental side of it. Um, I just tell myself, look, like, yeah, it is part of the sport. Things can happen here and there, but my main focus is how can I prevent this next time? And I think I've been doing pretty good for a year and a half. So I'm hoping that I can continue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, listen, I think it's kind of interesting, like, going through the highs, lows, injuries, like all that an athlete goes through. Like sometimes you're like, you forget they're human, right? Like when you mentioned about social media, some people will see an injury and be like, that's it. She's done. All right, cool. It's over. And you're
Yeah.
like, it's still a person behind the screen there. And I'm sure you wouldn't say it to their face. Now, some people would. And you're kind of like, all right,
Some
kudos.
people would.
Shout out to you. Just to kind of wrap it up, Bianca, we like to have a bit of a fun aspect at the end of this episode. It's called a
Yeah.
random question generator. So I have no control over this.
Okay.
It's just random questions. So the first
Okay.
one that they've got here is, what's your favorite fast food place? Like a place that you're like, yeah, gotta stop there.
Yeah. I love Wendy's and In-N-Out.
Okay. I like Pizza
I don't
Hut,
know. Do you guys
man.
have Wendy's in the? Do they
We
have
have we
Wendy's in
have
the
Wendy's
States?
in Newfoundland, yeah. I don't
No,
know.
but in the States,
Wendy's
do they
oh in
have?
the
Because I'm
States.
here right now and
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, oh God, I kind of want
That's
some
where you're
right
going.
now.
What's your favorite
I don't know
I
if they
guess
do.
what's your favorite kind of corny movie that you'll watch over and over again? No matter if someone's like that's super cheesy, you're going to sit down and watch it.
Good question.
Mine's always Mr. Deeds.
I Oh, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one. I like Mr. Bean movies, or I don't know if this is corny, but the movie like Horrible Bosses or Date Night or those
Okay.
kinds of movies.
All right. What's an artist that you currently listen to right now to like pump yourself up? If you say Drake's new album, I'm going to be like, you are a liar. No, no.
No, pass on that. Kendrick Lamar and Eminem.
That's fair. I listen to Eminem. Sometimes I'm just like, just make sure of my surroundings before I listen to it. Cause I'm just like, man, I'm still white. I'm still corny. So, don't want to be too hard. I want to ask you, okay. So the other random one it has here is what would you consider a most embarrassing moment in your life that you wouldn't want people to know about, but you're kind of okay talking about? Like, it's kind of like, it's not the most embarrassing thing ever, but you're like, hey, this thing happened to me and some people can relate to it. Mine is all, you know what? So, you don't have to overthink it. Mine is always waving at people, and then it's not even the person that you know. You're like, hey, and then it's like, oh,
that's pretty embarrassing. Let's see. Well, I can talk about this one story. Well, it's not really a story, but I was 14 and I didn't bring a pair of shoes, so I had to play with my opponent's shoes, and they were much bigger than mine. I was like, yeah, not 14. I think I was like 12 or 13. And they fell off like twice during the match. Like they just slipped right off. That was to me like so fucking embarrassing.
I feel like to go with yours.
Boy.
I was in a hockey tournament once, and you needed like a jock strap or jock, and they gave me this big huge one, and it wouldn't fit. So every time it kept falling out. And of course, you have a bunch of guys that's like, oh my god, look at the size of these, and I'm just like, excuse me, this is a 50-year-old's thing, and I'm 12. Stop it.
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Bianca Andreescu for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening, and good night.